Rockman X100 from MXR.
On the bench, we have the Rockman X100 from MXR. There is a lot of history behind this pedal. It started with Tom Schultz in the early 70s with the sound of Boston. And this sound carried over into the 80s with bands like Def Leppard, albums like Hysteria, and many others. Hi, we're going to take a closer look at the Rockman X100. We're going in the pedal, out the pedal, directly into the board, and we're recording from that. So this is kind of like a preamp. And so we'll get right to the settings. If it's in the off position, then there is no sound at all going through this pedal. So we'll turn it on. We'll start off in what they call clean 2. On the rack gear in the 80s, this would have other choices, and sometimes you would find a gear that would have 2 choices, and you could select 2 at the same time. So what we have here is we have, on the modes, we have clean 1, or sorry, clean 2, then we have clean 1. There's a story behind why those are backwards, but I'm not familiar with it, so we'll move on. The next is Edge. Edge is kind of a crunch. It's a little more than a crunch. And then we go into distortion. All right, we're going to go through these modes with a chorus. So it has a chorus here. You can hear the chorus. It kicks in. It's a... Don't hear as much on clean 2 as you will clean 1, but it's a slight chorus, kind of makes everything a little dreamy, let's say. We have a volume slider here, so this is down, and this is up. The other slider here it's called input gain, but one thing this does is as you raise it, it compresses the signal. So if you start down here, and you go up, and you're not going to hear that compression on these clean channels as much as you will when we get some the edge and the distortion. All right, we're going to move on to clean 1, because clean 2 is it's not as much of a guitar sound. I'm guessing a lot of people use this with keyboards and such as well. When we go here, you'll hear a difference. And you can hear the chorus kick in. It adds a little sustain to it. It's kind of a dreamy type wavy sustain. If we bring the compression back, like I said, you don't hear it much on this, but it'll just lower the input a little bit. Lots of tunes use these sounds from this Rockman. A lot of bands used Rockman in their sounds. Let's move on up to Edge. This is something more people recognize if they've listened to Boston. And see if you can hear the compression, less compressed. As you get more gain, you can hear it kind of just clamp down on it a little bit. When I say clamp down on compression, it kind of, in other words, you've got different pitches in this sound right here. And down here you can hear all those pitches more or less. You can hear the highs and the lows and the mids in there. And some of them are a little louder than the others. And as we add compression, it kind of clamps them all down to the same level, so one's not louder than the other. It blends the crunch together a little more. Now if we add the chorus, a little more. So you can kind of hear the 70s, 80s when they took this sound, they'd add some reverb and delay to it more. Of course, everything in the 80s had lots of reverb. And you can hear that chorus roll in, and of course the volumes are all capped. Let's bring this back a little bit. Lots of mellow crunch in there. Okay, let's pull the chorus off, back off the input gain. We're going to go up to distortion. This gets a little noisy. Let's throw our chorus back in. You can really hear the chorus on this one. Let's throw some compression back on top here. All right, this is a pedal that you can work it in, but you're always going to sound similar to one of the bands that used it in the 80s or the 70s. I mean, it's a nice pedal to play around with. If you're really serious and you want this type sound from the Rockman, I would try and find the used rack gear. I think you can still find it online, Reverb, maybe eBay. But if you've heard the rack gear in this is still a toy. I mean, it's got some sounds you can work in with it, but it's not the clarity. It doesn't have the clarity. You don't hear all the tonal qualities of it like you would with the Rockman rack gear. So go find you a video. YouTube's got plenty of them on the Rockman rack gear, and you will you'll hear the difference. But if you're just strictly nostalgia, or if you play in a band and you play some Boston stuff, and you can't find the sound, you can always fall back on this. Of course, this pedal's kind of expensive. I think you can probably get the same sound with a Tone X preset or something like that, and we'll go more over that when we get to our Tone X video, and that's coming up. All right, let me leave you with this. The sustain just goes and goes and goes and goes. All right, until our next video,